Chamish, and if you tuned in, you know on Tuesday, 6 Eastern is my radio show, and I got a special one tonight. Look, I've got three guests in a way. I wrote an article. Well, in 3 weeks' time is the 10th year anniversary of the evacuation of Gush Katif, of Jews from Gaza. I wrote a book. I was there. Oh, gosh, did I waste my time in retrospect? Nah, I put together a book with Gemma Blech as my photographer. Gemma, are you there?
I am, Barry. How are you?
Oh, not bad, I guess. It's all relative and that kind of stuff. You know what? You're one of the few people who ever saw me with... I got a wife, Cindy. Very unusual marriage, but 9 years, we're still together. She asked me to ask you, do you have a photo of us that you took on a couch?
Of the two of you together?
Yeah.
Maybe, but it was in the days before digital photography, so it's buried in the mists of time, I think.
All right, Cindy, tough luck. All right, let's leave it at that.
Well, I can always do another one next time.
Next time you're here?
Yeah.
All righty. Look, as my photographer, the cover... By the way, we're, I guess, reviving Bye Bye Gaza. Your cover...
I think it's an appropriate thing to do. I mean, we've got this is now the 10-year anniversary.
Yep.
And there's an awful lot going on here, but so much has never been resolved, never been said, never been really spoken out about the abomination of what went on. I don't think your listeners, and I think most people here in Israel, don't understand just what a serious thing was done 10 years ago.
Well, I got to give you a secret. I can tell when I have a strong article by the people who reject me and never want to hear from me again. All right? Plenty of them this time around. Look, on the cover, first of all, very, very effective cover. But we have got first a farmer praying, and next to him, his hothouses. Let's talk about what was lost.
Well, they lost everything.
Well, we know that, but they had a very, very profitable... They had created out of sand a very profitable agricultural... Well, 23 villages were raising, half of Israel's lettuce and so on and so forth, all gone. And for what? A peace treaty?
It wasn't even a peace treaty.
Nope.
I think the more I looked again at some of the clips that you sent round a couple of days ago of the whole evacuation and the background, I mean, taken at the time with the people who were there, people like Rachel and Moshe Saperstein speaking and things like that. And these... the more I looked at it, and I looked at both of them, they're quite long, and I would suggest to your viewers...
There were three of them, actually, but it's okay.
You what?
What did they say to you?
What they said to me was that the whole plan of destroying Gush Katif, which, if your viewers don't know, was this very desert area down in the south of Israel, in which the Jews have been sent down down to live there some 30 years before, and literally to build a life down there in the desert. And they went down there and they built, like you said, these amazing farms with the best cherry tomatoes and peppers you've ever seen or tasted in your life, and they exported geraniums to Europe. I mean, the most extraordinary place. And it was destroyed for no reason at all. It was no peace treaty. There always was terror from the local Arab population who had tried to kill Jews, and that has never stopped. And the army the government decided, for reasons we can talk about, that they wanted all Jews out. And I believe now, the more I looked at those video clips that you sent me this week, the more I realized that this was really a battle of the most incredible sort, very high up, to destroy, not just to destroy Israel, to destroy anybody who believed in the Bible.
By the way, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Southern Gush Katif was religious. Northern was pretty secular.
Yes, but I think the Northern was just an add-on. It was
Well,
pretty.
that add-on, nonetheless, it
I
was.
think that the issue is Gush Katif, and if the idea, like you've always said, and I don't know that I really believed you, that if Gush Katif had been the quotes success that they hoped it would be, then they could go on and they could clear out Judea, Samaria, and all the rest of it. And
They did a pretty good job. They got rid of all of northern Samaria. People kind of ignore that. But with Gush Katif came northern Samaria.
Northern Samaria, first of all, it wasn't the same quantity of people, and secondly, it wasn't the same quantity of production. But Gush Katif was much more of an isolated surround. It was like a sort of shtetl down in the south that they could just destroy. They had no real contact with the Arabs either. The Arabs were living in Gaza City, and they were creating their own chaos and their own whatever down there. But the Jews were doing very nicely, thank you. And the more I read it, and also I don't know if your viewers know, that we're now coming up to Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, and this coming Shabbat. And if you read the story of the destruction of, it remembers the destruction of Jerusalem. And in the book of Lamentations in the Bible, you've got the prophet crying and lamenting what this destruction means. The same date is also the same date for the second destruction in AD 70 and many, many other things. But it's also Gush
Gemma,
Katif.
no one is crying for Gush Katif.
Nobody now is crying for Gush Katif.
No,
I absolutely agree with
reminding them, look, I know the allegory you're creating, all right? This was not, half of Jerusalem is going to go. It's a matter of time. But I know the allegory you're trying to create. We've got to revive Gush Katif. All right, on we go. I bite in. I shouldn't have.
It's very interesting because I think it was Herzog, I'm not sure, the leader of the opposition, just a week or two ago, said nobody wants to go back to Gush Katif. And I think that's the opposite truth. I believe that those who were there, for all the horror that they've been through, still have a longing to go back, just as they did when they lost Jerusalem in 1948, and they long to go back.
They can long all they want. They're not going to get their way.
Well, you may be right. You may be right, but
I'll bet you, if I were a betting man, all right, you versus me, I bet on me.
Well, I'm not a betting woman either. I'm not saying that. You have just said that we should revive Gush Katif, and I'm saying that there is still this longing to go back. I'm not sure that it's as strong as it was in between 48 and 67, but I think it's still there.
You know Herzog, the whole family, you know his father, you know the labor Zionists who founded the country were the Herzogs. He was the first.
Of course I know.
All right. My listeners don't. Believe me, this is tricky.
But I'm not sure that we want to spend this time now going
All right. We're not going to spend this time explaining the intricacies.
Okay.
Look, first of all, stick around. You can talk with Eliza. She wrote a book that you read, and look, she's a wonderful woman. But on radio, she has her weak spots. I think you can help her. Now, let's go straight. You were the photographer for the Women in Green. All right, explain what that meant.
What, should I explain who Women in Green were or
It
are?
works. What were you doing photographing Gaza? What was I doing in Gaza? Somehow we managed to join forces.
Okay, for your sake of your viewers, in around 1993, at the time of the Oslo agreements, when already there was talk about giving away land, a group began which got known as the Women in Green, because they wore green hats, that we should not give away land. And it's a long story, but I became the photographer for Women in Green. And what Women in Green did in those days, this is way back in 93, long before any discussion about Gaza was around. What we did is we protested in various ways about giving away land to the Arabs, who then were very clearly committed to kill us and to destroy us and to take over the whole of what we believed was God-given Eretz Israel. And it was at that time that we all met up with Barry. And Barry, I remember the very, very first time we met, he produced a flag, a black flag of Israel.
Oh, I recall that.
Instead of blue and white.
Perkins.
It was you and Perkins, and that was the first time you came to my house, and you gave me or sold me these flags, and we put these flags onto our cars, and we drove out in convoys down the highway, which was protesting we're not giving away the land. This was a black flag with a line all the way through it, saying that you're by making these agreements, these false peace agreements, you're splitting the land, you're losing the land. And that's how Barry and I first met. And I became the photographer, and I'm sure somewhere we've got pictures of us with our cars with the black flags.
Well, I'm not sure about that. And by the way, you're right. Us people joined together for survival, and a lot of good it did, really. But what it comes down to is you were there. At the same time, I was there trying our best not to let Gush Katif be bulldozed, but we watched as it was.
But I think, Barry, in your defense, not in mine, I think when I was going down there, and there were thousands and thousands of us going down there and battling to either be there or to protest, trying to stop the army, trying to tell the army to disobey orders, the orders that they were going to get to go and destroy the place. I don't think I then understood, like I do now, and like you clearly have known for a long time, just what a dirty deal was going on. It was not just the destruction of Gush Katif. It was much more to do with the incredible complex plots and conspiracies that were involved, and the infiltration of the so-called right-wing goodies, all the activists who were trying to stop this government action, who were actually turncoats, who were there to infiltrate and destroy from within in ways which most of us did not understand at the time, and many refuse to understand now. They just blame.
They still don't.
They don't.
Just so you know,
I
the
think
blindness of Jews.
What happened was that then, as now, is they just blame the government. It was just the government that did it, without any understanding of the complexities of the sort of infiltration and real plots that went on to do it.
You know, I'm going to ask you to recall, Nadia Matar was one of the very, very few. She was the leader of the Women in Green. She's one of the few who managed to get 2,300 anyways, there to stand up to the army and let's do this Itamar Ben-Gvir and the hotel and everything that went, that horrible week when she was thrown out and her followers were put in detention camps.
Right. It was
But right.
terrible. I mean, but it took Nadia a very long time, and she lived down there. In those days, you weren't allowed to go there unless you changed your ID in such a way to show that that's where you live. She went down with a whole group of people, and they lived there for at least 6 months prior to the evacuation. So the evacuation was in the August, and so they went down in the beginning of that year of 2005, and they lived down there. And it was a long time before they realized the seriousness of the infiltration. And it came to a head at one particular time when we were in a hotel. I think they had some sort of exhibition. So it was fairly innocuous. It was an exhibition of paintings or whatever of the protests. And there were a lot of people there. And they brought in this guy, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who likes to think of himself as some sort of lawyer. And he created troubles.
Yep.
And he basically provoked some sort of a riot. He was doing it all the time. He'd do things like organize for someone to stick up a cartoon saying Muhammad is a pig or something like that.
And a giant sign, not a cartoon.
Well, it was a sign in those days, was it?
The Arabs woke up in this little village to the message that Muhammad is a pig. They didn't like it. He riled up. Well,
that's how, and that's how he did it. And he did it in more. There was more than one occasion when these things happened, and the same sort of tactics go on today. They create an incident. It doesn't matter how it is. It can be Muhammad is a pig or Jesus is a pagan or whatever it happens to be. They create an incident and everybody gets upset. And then what happens is that the right-wing activists get shut down. They get the blame for whatever it was. And it's a whole tactic which is being repeated time and time again all through these years.
Amazingly, though, just before all of these young girls, they were mostly teenage girls, were evacuated and sent to camps in the Negev. Well, Itamar Ben-Gvir was taken by the police to Beersheba, so he wouldn't be there, and he left his hooligans. In short, he was protected, and his hooligans, well, they were thrown out as hooligans, but he wasn't.
Yeah, but I think it was much more serious than that. I mean, if it was just him escaping his hooligans,
he broke up the demonstrations. They would have stood up to the army.
Yeah, but he did more than that. The whole infiltration of everything. I mean, you described the infiltration, and so does Eliza. The infiltration of Yesha, the Yesha Council. This was supposed to be the council that was supposedly organizing the opposition. And they were doing a tolerably good job of it. But then they basically get thousands of people down and have them walking around in circles. And then they scream, no violence, no violence. And they make sure that people, nobody's allowed to use the weapon that they've got. They've all got legalized weapons for fighting Arabs. But no, you must never use their weapons against the people who are trying to root them out.
More to the point, nothing was ready for a protest, not even water. You're making it sound almost justifiable that we prevented violence. That's not what was happening. They were preventing their homes from being bulldozed.
I know.
They managed to be brainwashed.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not making anything. I hope I'm saying, Barry.
It's a tough story, okay? It's
very, very tough. These people were brainwashed, and they were brainwashed by all sorts of slogans, one of which was there's to be no violence. And in fact, they were at war with their own. I mean, it was almost civil war in the country because the army.
Except they were backing. Look, if it was a civil war, unknowingly, this is what gets me. How could they be so stupid as to support their enemies? That's what was going on. The Gaza residents were backing their enemies, and I assume they didn't know it.
They didn't. I don't think they really knew. I think they really didn't believe that it was possible. I mean,
Yeah, I know that.
it's very clear. And I mean, it really seemed impossible to us too, if we're honest. I mean,
No, it wasn't impossible for me.
No,
I'm
not
telling
for
you
you. I'm
straight
not
out,
saying.
I knew oh gosh.
I mean, it was not impossible for you, but I'm saying for some of us, it seemed like an impossible idea that a Jewish government would simply uproot 10,000 or 8,000, depending on your names, but 22, 23 Jewish communities, all productive, none of them depending on the state, all of them active in the defense of the country, all of them involved in some way. I mean, nobody was sitting there like a sort of, I don't know,
I knew it was
waiting for
coming a
a
mile
waiting.
off.
What?
And I spoke to large crowds. I said, guys, you had better man the ramparts. You've got to stand up. You got to prepare for what's coming. They didn't listen. And I'm talking one crowd was 800. It was very frustrating, okay?
It was very frustrating. It was very, very frustrating. But in a way, our individual frustration now, looking back on it, and even now trying to understand it, I think is not enough. I think what we have to do is understand that there are serious plots, and I don't want to use the word conspiracies.
Why not? Use it. Conspiracy is a crime between two or more people. Go ahead.
Okay, a conspiracy between two or more people. There are plots between two or more people, and their aims are always to destroy, I would say, destroy the things of God, destroy Israel, to destroy people of faith. And what a tragedy is so many of the people down there who were real God-fearing people. One of the people on your...
there was no crime. It was a very orderly, ethical community. You could walk on the streets. It was a perfect community.
It was absolutely perfect. I mean, the only thing they had to deal with in terms of aggression was Arab terror. And even that was fairly spasmodic.
That was also when you needed a good Arab terror from Israel, they had people who provided it. Oh,
that's right. That's true.
Oh, God. You know, this subject.
But Barry, that's what I'm trying to explain, and that's what I think I've come to understand this week. You told me to concentrate on Gaza, to think, what have we learnt in these past 10 years?
It goes on.
We've learnt very little. And if we're going to be talking now about anything, we've got to understand that there really are plans to destroy this nation. I keep going back to Psalm 83. And it's incredible because it's no different now. There are always plans, whether it's to destroy Jerusalem, whether it's to
Gemma, we have to take 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I've got so much to discuss with you.
Okay.
Come back, 3 minutes time. All right, be patient.
I'm still here.
Gotcha.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
Hey folks, we've got an important show with important people. Gemma was there for history. Don't kid yourself with that. She recorded it. And, well, my book, Bye Bye Gaz, is in black and white or color at lulu.com, www.lulu.com. There's a search box. Either write in Bye Bye Gaza or Chamish. Chamish, that's my last name. David Salmon is still running the website, so it's barrychamish.com. Gemma, do you want people to get a hold of you?
No, I don't think I'm very useful to most people. And I don't
all
have
right. Through me, folks. Write me.
I'm getting too old to be doing very much now.
Well, if anyone asks, you write me at chamishba@gmail.com, and I'll get them to you. Now, look, you had, after the eviction of 2,300 women in green protesters, at least 600 young girls, 17, 16, were sent to camps in the Negev for months. Where were their parents? How could they let their children be put in camps for months? Where were they?
I don't know. I don't know very much about that. I mean, most of the parents I know had small children, and they were all stuck in hotels for months on end, having absolute hell, and all over the place, particularly in Jerusalem.
They were arrested. They were detained.
They were detained.
There were no charges against them.
No. Well, that's an old law from the British, which in those days was used very regularly for the Jews.
Administrative detention, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it was used a lot in those days. Thank God I hear about it much less often nowadays.
Oh, you'll hear about some more. Don't worry. Just be patient. Look, I'm going to give you what Nadia wrote me after this ridiculous eviction and ridiculous detention. Here's what she wrote me. After Gush Katif, I have come to the realization as to how sick and pathologic the national religious camp and its leaders are, and how the religious mamlakti education has turned most of our camp into puppets that bow down to the state of Israel and its symbols, the very state out to destroy its people. That came from Nadia. I got her in a moment. Today she's got one little place, Ma'oz Chaim, and she's reduced to that. But back then she woke up briefly.
Well, I wouldn't want to run Nadia down at all.
I'm not running her down.
And to say that she's got one place, Ma'oz Gaon is the most amazing place, and she's been incredibly wise over it. I mean, I think perhaps your listeners don't know that one of the reactions of the right wing in Israel has always been that when something happens, like a murder or something terrible happens, Gush Katif if you like, but less so that, the response is always to build, not to destroy. And so to build a new settlement or whatever, and every time it comes under threat and it's told it's illegal, or it's on illegal land, or it's on illegal this, or it's on illegal that. And what happened after the murder of the 3 schoolboys a year ago is they took hold of this hilltop, which was absolutely Israeli land. It had an old forester's hut on it, stone hut, and it was slap in the middle of a forest, in the middle of Gush Katif, middle of Gush Etzion, very near Efrat. And they took it over, and they did not turn it into a settlement. They turned it into a education center, into a tourist center. It's into a play area, and hundreds of people are going there the whole time. I was there the other day. It was quite extraordinary what they've done. The way they built it up, the number of people who are living there, they've got all sorts of people all living. None of them are called settlers. They're either guards or forest, what do you call them, forest keepers?
Forest rangers, whatever.
Forest rangers.
The fact is they can be uprooted just as fast.
They can be, but there's been no attempt so far. And at the moment, the public is very much with them because it's built in the memory of these 3 boys, the 3 boys who were murdered, who were supposedly the instigator for the war against Gaza last year. They have an enormous amount of following, and the place is amazing. So don't put her down. She's amazing.
I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying there isn't much left. Look.
Well, there's more.
When I wrote Bye Bye Gaza, the idea was not to put down the Gazans. It was to raise them up. My conclusion was great disappointment, but where my feelings were pretty obvious.
You mean raise up? You're talking about the Jews?
Of course I am.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah. I mean, what happened to the Jews? What happened to the Jews of Gush Katif was an abomination. And it still is. There are still people, they still haven't been compensated. I lent people money and they still have not been able to give it back to me because they haven't had the compensation. And there are still bedwetting kids all over the place. We're talking about 10 years later. We're not talking about, 6 months later. It's absolutely shocking. And it's been buried in the psyche of most of Israel. And not to mention the world. I want you to
know that the article I wrote, it's buried in the psyche of most Jews. All right? Just to correct you mildly. Look, we're talking about Yesha Council, Bentzi Lieberman, and Pinchas Wallerstein. They were guiding them to their destruction.
I know.
And they fell for it.
I know, but did we know then? Or did we want to know? You knew, but we didn't want to know.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to say if...
But your question was... Barry, your question was... What are we learning from that?
Yeah? What are you
And
learning from that?
you're saying that the same blindness is going on now,
Yeah, I am.
and we don't see it. And I think you must be right, but I don't see it either in quite the same way. The other
Uh,
thing which I think
I
I
don't
want,
want you to ever see what the next stage is. But look, 2 days before in Tel Aviv, almost 250,000 people gathered to protest the upcoming destruction of Gush Katif in Tel Aviv. Why weren't they in Gaza? If there were 250,000 Jews surrounding Gaza, it it would have been a very different event. But the Yesha Council sent them to Tel Aviv. Uh, I'm getting emotional. I'm sorry.
yeah, I think people are learning much more now about where the issue really is. I don't know,
Oh,
but I
are
don't,
they?
we don't. I mean, the answer is there were millions out on the streets many times over that whole time. I mean, that was why where I came in. But what doesn't matter where it was. I mean, whether we were in Gush Katif, whether we were in Jerusalem, whether
No,
we were in
you're
Tel Aviv.
wrong. If you had 250,000 people surrounding Gaza, it would have mattered.
Of course, but they wouldn't let them in. I mean, this was the
They
way.
didn't have to be in.
What?
You just surround the place. They
You've got
didn't have to
that
go in.
for that. You would have had to have had a real understanding of what it is to be at war. And it was like, when I use the word civil war, I mean it's the civilians at war. We're not talking about the army as such. We're talking about what the mentality of what it is to fight something. And we didn't have it then, and to some extent we don't have it now.
Look, you know who their rabbi was. You know the Shlomo Aviner. You know all
Of
this,
course
right?
I know. Of course I know. But the
Tell my
answer is,
listeners they don't know.
well, you tell them then.
No! You tell them.
Well, I don't know enough about it. All I know is that there were many rabbis, and he was one, who basically,
No, there was one rabbi leading them, and he liked young girls and was about to go to jail for molesting them.
right. Well, what is interestingly enough now, I mean, for so many years, this whole issue of rabbis molesting girls has been hidden under the table. And and I know of an example recently, and it wasn't a girl who was molested, it was a much older woman. And she reported it to the police, and she
Oh, no,
lived
we're getting off topic. You're
No,
missing the point.
I know we're missing the point, but what I'm trying to say is it's only very recently that the whole issue of rabbis who abuse women is allowed to now is coming before the courts. You
It
couldn't
was
say
in the
anything.
Israeli media. It was every which way. Suddenly, the charges were dropped. Nah, I'm not going to. I won't challenge you on this. He told them not to fight the police, and they applauded the young kids. He had them handing out stupid orange pieces of cloth, thinking that was a protest. He had them holding hands from Gush Katif to the Western Wall, thinking that was a protest. They weren't in Gaza standing up to the army. They were wasting their times. They were being hippies because of this rabbi.
Well, I was part of the protest as well, holding hands between Jerusalem and Gaza.
Well, it was
I
a
mean,
waste of time. And
well,
when it
maybe
happened, I was at the Western Wall watching them come in. And I told them, what are you doing? This is your energy being... You're holding hands. You think that is going to do anything?
Well, one of the messages was we've got to go on loving one another. And even
Oh, heck with that. This was a
when the
war and
army
they
came
lost
in,
their
they did
homes.
love. But this is what I'm saying, Barry, is that there was never anybody who was saying that we've got to, this protest has got to have real teeth. It's not a matter of handing out cookies and loving everybody. It's a matter of really standing up for what you believe is the right thing to be standing up for, which in this case is your home, your land, and I believe the nation of Israel.
Look, I'm going to repeat this. Now, you hang around for Eliza.
Well, it's getting very late. It's 2 a.m. here. I'm not sure that
All right, don't hang around for Eliza. I'll let her know that you read.
What time is she due on?
She's next.
Right. We've still got another 10 minutes.
If you want to, it's not imperative, all right? Look, I reread. I forgot so much of this stuff. And by the way, my memory is not what it used to be. I'm getting old. But I went through the difference between Kfar Maimon and Shderot. And what was Kfar Maimon? And how did it differ from Shderot, which I went to?
Oh, it's a big difference. Kfar Maimon, as I remember, was, first of all, it was right on the border. It was very, very close to where technically Gush Katif started. And Sderot is a town, a full-blown town, some miles away. It's quite a long way away. And Sderot stayed out of the whole protest. They were, because because Gush Katif was, quote, settlers, religious settlers, and Sderot is a very secular town, mostly Moroccans and Russians and things like that. It was very secular. They were really said it's nothing to do with us. You know, let them get on. If they want to get the Jews out of Gush Katif, that's no problem for us. And so what happened afterwards, after, of course, Sderot were right on the front line when Hamas took over and started to shower rockets down. And then Sderot comes back into the news as this poor suffering town. But they were not involved whatever in the concern for Gush Katif, certainly not involved in any way in protecting. It would have been easy for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of residents of Sderot to be.
Sderot has got 20,000 people.
Okay, so if 20,000 people had turned out from Sderot, or even half that number, 10,000, had gone down to start protesting about the evacuation,
There were 70,000 who gathered at Sderot, including me, for a crazy 3-day march in July.
That wasn't Sderot. It was much nearer Kfar Maimon and all round Kisufim and around there.
No. There were lots of protests, all right? Leave it at
okay, but Sderot is quite a long way from the border.
Yep, a 3-day march. That was the plan. And me, like the idiot I was covering this, showed up, and I was going to march for 3 days in the heat. You know what?
But Sderot as a town was not committed to the
a meeting place to waste our energy walking in 90-degree heat for no reason.
That may well be. That may well be. I was down there earlier this year.
Right, again.
And then I realized
what was Kfar Maimon then?
Kfar Maimon, I think, is more of a kibbutz type place, and it's much closer to where the border really was. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at a map again.
Look, in short, the Yesha Council, which was the settlers' government, were sending them to protests that they canceled. In the case of Sderot, it was go home. The Bagatz, the Supreme Court is hearing our plea. Go home. Everything's going to be good. It was all to waste our time. And I saw it every time. And in the case of Sderot, I told my friends, Jerry and Idris, let's go home. Gush Katif is finished.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The whole Yesha Council thing was a farce, and it was completely infiltrated and taken over. And there were one or two people who saw it at the time, and by which time it was too late. They got
What a
much too much of a
coincidence that
hold.
the Goths agreed to hear a petition. At the moment, 70,000 Jews gathered in Sderot. What a coincidence of timing. And people
Yeah,
couldn't
but
see
the
it.
Gats has been politically active, if that's the right word, for years now. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, the situation for the Supreme Court here is terrible. And you can't talk very much of what's going on in America. Look at your Supreme Court, the recent agreement.
Leave it. Don't go there. I'm happy with our Supreme Court right now. I'm talking 10 years ago. Listen, I wrote this article. I'm the first to get in the punch. It's 3 weeks before the anniversary. Thanks to Eliza, I I didn't know what to do with the last article. The horrible, horrible labor Zionists and the agreement with the Nazis and the transfer agreement and Evian. I never wanted to write another article in my life. And then Eliza comes along, and it's 10 years since, well, you know what it's 10 years since.
Right. Right. I've just celebrated 28 years here.
Again, that's really not the topic. Right? Look, I'm going to read you what the police chief of Israel said after the evacuation. That's what they called what they did. The Girush is what the settlers called it, the forced evacuation. He says it could not have been. Here's the quote from Chief of Police of Israel. He said that he could not have expelled the Jews from Gaza and northern Samaria in 6 days without the secret connivance of settler leaders. And then he adds, the police with the settler leaders allowed protests so they would not seem like betrayers. That, by the way, came from Imra way back then.
Well, I think that's the most correct thing we've said tonight.
They're all correct. We've said plenty of correct.
It's really terrifying, and that's what I said at the very beginning. I don't think at the time we realized the degree of infiltration or betrayal or cooperation with the authorities, but we haven't got to the real bottom line but we haven't discussed at all, is why the whole idea was conceived of in the first place.
Oh, because you want to do Sharon and the Jericho Casino.
Right.
I was going to do that with Eliza, but go ahead.
No, you go. I mean, I think...
you're the guest.
No, I think that the reasons are much deeper than that. I think that
that the government was totally corrupted, that they were running an $800,000 a day money laundering scheme, that the Sharon family... All right.
Yes, all that and a whole lot more. But I think, you've got Christian listeners, I think, on this program. And I think they have to understand... What?
I'm sure I do.
I'm sure you do. And I think what we have to understand is that this is a whole spiritual thing, which is the idea of to get rid of Israel. I mean, it says very clearly... I'm reading this psalm to you. With cunning they conspire against your people. They plot against you, those you cherish. Come, they say, let us destroy them as a nation, so that Israel's name is remembered no more. And there's nothing to stop the Jews cooperating in that same demonic plan. And we have to wake up and realize these things happen.
Look, that's why I wrote the article before, where I can't take it anymore. I mean, the Holocaust to me is a daily memory that it may have been different if there was no Israel, there was no labor Zionism. It may have been a very different story.
Right. It may have been very different too if the British had not been like they were. It's the same, but it's the same spiritual force behind. It's the same.
What spiritual force is that?
The force which wants to kill the Jews. To wipe out every last one of them. And now we've got Iran screaming the same thing. And
Do you think
Hamas couldn't
Iran's
say,
any different than, oh, I'm not going to go through ISIS and where it was founded and how it became the power that took over Iraq and Syria? Everywhere that America sticks their fingers and Israel is hand in hand, it's mucking up the Middle East. You think Iran is different? It's just one more.
yeah, I agree. It's just one more, and it happens to be a currently nasty one.
So now it's
And
the
America's,
discussion. Where were the discussers when ISIS took over Syria and Iraq in 2012?
where was who?
Oh, forget it.
No,
I'm just
what are you asking me?
I'm saying it's all to make darn sure this region is safe for labor Zionism and not for the Jews. Well, let's put it this way, not for religious Judaism, but labor Zionism, which
Yeah,
is the
I
Sabbateanism, and I don't want to dive into it.
no, I'm simply saying for me, I mean, I don't call myself a religious Jew by any stretch of the imagination, but I do call myself a committed, God believing, Bible believing Jew. And and it's very, very clear that the forces, whether it's America, whether it's Iran, whether it's Hamas, whether it's ISIS, wants to
Whether it's
eliminate,
Israel,
or within Israel too. It's exactly the same.
not
Everybody's,
two, part and parcel. That's where the whole problem lies.
that's right.
Well, I'm glad we reached that conclusion. I don't know another conclusion to reach.
Well, I still think that it's a spiritual battle, and I'm not so sure that in the end your conclusion is that we will be destroyed, and
Well, it's certainly looking bad.
my conclusion is different. I still believe that the God of Israel is faithful, and He goes on watching over Israel, and that
Except
out of this,
Latif and
and
northern
out of
Samaria and the Sinai, 90% of what we once had is now. You know, there have been 2 wars fought over Gaza since the pullout.
I know, and an on
How is he watching over that? Oh, I got you stuck,
well,
don't
it's
I?
no, you haven't, I don't think. I think, Isaiah says, no weapon fashioned against you will prosper. I think it's quite extraordinary that the amount of stuff that Gaza is throwing onto us day after day, the rockets that we had last year and the years before, and, they really do
Oh,
hardly anything.
Gemma, I hate to do this to you.
We're going to have
It
to
was a
end.
very lively and I think informative hour. Thank you. And
So
look, for
give,
Eliza, I brought
give
in
my give
David
my greetings
Tregerman.
to Elisa. I'll stay online. If by any chance I'm still awake, I'll say hello.
Sure, stay online. Elisa's
Last
coming up next, and David Tregerman, who read her book Banished, I invited him along as well.
Okay.
Very important show in its own way. Folks, I'll see you in 7 minutes. This is Barry Chamish.
If I can, take care. Bye, Barry.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. 16 Republicans are now seeking the GOP presidential nomination. Ohio Governor John Kasich is the latest candidate to announce his intentions. The Associated Press points out that Kasich has helped deal with a massive budget shortfall while creating jobs as governor. Unions say problems have occurred on his watch, but Kasich says he is experienced and tested. Another Planned Parenthood official is seen on video talking about selling aborted baby parts and tissue for profit. AFN's Charlie Butts reports on the latest chapter in the investigative report.
The first undercover video by the Center for Medical Progress showed Planned Parenthood Medical Director Deborah Nucatola discussing the sale of aborted baby parts, which is illegal. The latest undercover video featured Dr. Mary Gatter, president of Planned Parenthood's Medical Directors Council and medical director of the organization's Pasadena Abortion Clinic, also bargaining for prices. Then Gatter refers to an unnamed abortionist about using a different method to get a better specimen.
And then if we want to pursue this mutually, I'll mention this about using a less crunchy technique to get more whole specimens. And then if we agree to move forward, the next steps I need to apply for a waiver to permit us to do this. We have to have a contract.
The words Gatter used are less crunchy technique to avoid destroying organs and making the aborted baby unsaleable. Then Gatter talks about the income.
I want a Lamborghini. I said I want a Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini can cost up to $600,000. Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards has stated emphatically that Planned Parenthood doesn't profit from the practice.
A federal appeals court has overturned.
Press pound. To replay this message, press 1. To mark the message urgent, press 3. To mark the message private, press 4. To erase and re-record, press
Nick,
star.
I'm getting a recording. Now, I'm going to ask, but it sounds like, Elisa, you're not there, are you? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. She didn't show up for her interview.
I'm still here, Barry.
Good. I need you. David, you're there?
I'm here.
Oh, great.
Why on earth? Gemma, you... I don't have an answer.
Introduce me to Barry.
Yes?
Introduce me to David. Who is he and where is he?
David's in New York, and...
I'm on Long Island.
Let's say that he read Banished, and I was going to have him talk with Elisa, but there's something wrong with the woman who won't show up for an interview.
Well, maybe she's just having problems getting online. Don't be too hard on her.
Oh, if you weren't here, I'd have no one to talk to.
It's 2 in the morning here. Where is she? She's in Canada, isn't she?
She's in New York.
Oh, she's in New York.
She's a Chabad lady living in a Chabad neighborhood, Empire Boulevard. Look, she wrote Banished. And
yeah, I've got a copy of it in front of me.
Say it again?
I have a copy of it in front of me here.
Well, it's supposedly a historical novel.
David, did you read it?
Yes, I read it. I gave it to a Rebbitzin who was a Chabad rabbi's wife. She enjoyed it. So it's been passed around.
Maybe that's her now.
No, that's Nick phoning her. And Nick, please, we don't need to hear a message that she's not there. Leave it be. It's okay.
Very strange.
Hello?
Oh, gosh, Eliza. You can't do this. I'm on the air. It's very embarrassing. Eliza Bas Menachem is here, and you have got two fans on the line. Say hello to Gemma. Say hello to... Okay, first Gemma, then we'll do David. Gemma, say hello to Eliza.
Eliza, I just want to say hello. I'm really going to go to bed. I've got a busy day tomorrow, and it's 2 a.m. here. But
oh, my goodness.
It's nice to talk to you. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well. How are you? Well, you're losing a little sleep, but other than that, I hope you're well.
Yeah, I'm fine.
She was good. Right. She was fine. And we had a fine hour.
Barry and I had a real good ding-dong.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I read in Psalm 80.
It's all about your book, Eliza.
Okay.
We're doing a whole show about your book.
We're doing a whole show about Gush Katif.
Pardon me?
Well, Gemma, thank you.
Okay, Lila Tov, I'm going to go to bed. Lila Tov.
Okay, good night.
Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.
Good night.
All right, David, you come on at 7:30. You'll meet another fan. There are people out there who really admire your book. And I was going to put them on the air, and just so you know, they exist. All right?
I'm here.
Okay, David, say hello to Elisa, but then butt out till 7:30.
Hello?
I'm going to butt out till 7:30, I'm told.
No, but say hello to her first.
Say hello, Elisa.
Okay, hi. So I'll speak to you at 7:30, is that it?
No!
Brooklyn to listen to each Barry Gay.
Okay, I'm misunderstanding. Okay.
All right, it's all you. All you. No one else. All right? Eliza wrote Banished. My gosh, I'm trying to revive your book. It's a very fine book. Look at the effort I'm taking. Come on, give me some credit. All right, let's go into your I call it a masterpiece, and I don't use that word very often.
Well, thank you very much, because I value that from you, because you yourself are a writer, and you're very knowledgeable about the topic, so I really appreciate that you use the word masterpiece for Banished.
Look, you're the only person who told this story in fiction form. I did it in non-fiction form, but nobody knows the pain the Jews caused the Jews.
Well, the thing is, I had the choice, as you did, to try and, depict the whole era by giving the facts. But the facts are really out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody was really interested, they could know about it. But it's very painful. And facts, excuse me, can be boring. I learned a lot of history by reading Leon Uris, because he fictionalized, he put in characters. And I realized that that's really what this whole thing is about people and their feelings. And, and of course it was based, it happened because of evil, and you've got to a lot of people want to cover that up, but the only reason it could have happened is because there was evil, and that means there were evil people, and we have to portray those people, and really, we can't just hush-hush and pretend, it's like an abusive relationship.
I think Jews can be hush-hush. There's something wrong with their mentality.
So that's why I wrote the book, and that's why actually some people are resisting it, because they don't, it's like, don't say what happened in the family because we want to save the family reputation. And of course that just makes the abusive relationship worse. So that's why I actually came out and Banished and said, no, I'm not going to hush-hush. I'm going to tell the story, because from the end result, we can see there really was evil there, and the evil still persists. So by being hush-hush is not the way to do it. And so by fictionalizing the characters, even though the characters are very recognizable, I can delve more into,
by the way,
their feelings. Go ahead. You want to say something, Barry?
No, I'm just going to say I'm going to make them recognizable very shortly.
Okay. But the thing is that, by doing this fictionalization, it does make it more interesting. And a lot of these stories really happened. Like there's, as I mentioned in the book, there's an organization, Honenu, which provided legal assistance to people who were arrested. So I read through all their documentation and took real stories of when people were arrested and put it into the book. So a lot of the book is very real, but it's put into a story form to hold people's attention. And
first of all, I'm going to give a quote from you. You're talking about your quote. Administrative detention was revived to incarcerate rabbis and activists and hold them indefinitely without pressing charges. That was one of the atrocities. Innocent people.
Yes.
That was a lead-in. Go take it.
Right. I mean, the administrative detention was from the days of the British.
You read their sheets. All right. Now, I'm out. Tell me what was in these charge sheets.
Well, one of the stories in the book of a woman who was a resident of Gush Katif, and she was driving back, and at the checkpoint where they're supposed to be checking for terrorists, they stop her and they give her a lot of trouble, and they somehow manhandle her. They get her out of the car, and they push her so she pushes a policeman, and then they arrest her, and then she has a police record. And then after the disengagement, she couldn't get a job because she had a police record because she was never prosecuted. So that actually happened. Another thing that actually happened was there were a couple of guys on the street corner protesting. Now, this happens, guys on street corners in Israel, I mean, some of them are Breslevers, but people, will protest or have signs. But these particular people were taken in, and then the police came and in the middle of the night to break into one of their houses to drag him out of his house because he had been on the street corner with a protest sign.
Jews living in terror of other Jews.
Yeah,
of
really.
Their leaders.
Yep, I mean, being dragged from your house at 1 a.m, having been, your door is banged, they bang on the door, they come in and they drag out the man of the house. I mean, it's very frightening, and this is what happened. This is these people that Honenu defended to get them out of jail.
I'm going to give another quote. This one will be tougher on you. I know it's right, all right, but we are under the constant surveillance of the police and Secret Service. Israel, folks, all right? Imagine being under constant surveillance of the Secret Service. The Secret Service pays Arabs to stage terrorist attacks against their political opponents. If you can prove this, go ahead and try.
So, that...
It's tougher, I agree.
It is tougher. I do have the bibliography there. In the back of the book, there is a bibliography for all these things. I'm sorry. Let me think about that.
All right. I didn't mean to. I knew it was tough. I actually
you could have emailed me first, and then I could have come up with the So I'm sorry about that. It's a good question. I want to be able to answer that question because that is it's a very relevant question.
Look, I'm going to do one more quote, and then I'm just going to let you run wild. And this is, Goldstein was set up so they could make him an icon of extreme settler who who represents all settlers. I investigated Baruch Goldstein. Did he not commit a massacre in Hebron? What do you know about it? Just throw it out.
Well, the thing is that they needed something. It's to me, it's very similar to the Rabin murder, where they were able to accomplish something politically and have it blamed on the population that they label settlers. And specifically, they needed it in Hebron because Hebron is a place where the Jewish roots are so deep. I mean, you can argue about Tel Aviv, over history, and, there were Arabs there and all that, but, previously. But Hebron has always had a Jewish presence, and Hebron is mentioned, right there in the Chumash in the Bible.
They were slaughtered. What was it, 1929 or whatever year it was?
Right. So the thing is that it's a very Jewish place, and the government did not want Jews to feel that way. They wanted to break the tie between Jews and Hebron because I mean they look in 1948. They abdicated, Shem and Hebron. I mean, these are very
Nablus and
and Hebron and whereas they kept Tel Aviv, but they didn't keep the places that were very relevant biblically. So you have right there holy places. You have right there in the Bible, which says that Abraham paid 400 silver coins to the local people so he could buy the cave of Machpelah. It says that there. Nobody refutes that. This was bought for money.
Was accused of massacring, well, maybe he did 48, but the soldiers did another dozen or two.
Right. So in order to break this, that the government doesn't want the Jews to feel close to the city of Hebron, they needed to do something so that most Jews would be afraid to go there. And the fact that there's Jews living there makes other Jews feel it's more safe. So they had to show the general population that, those Jews who live in Hebron are crazy, and we'll show you, we'll, have one of them do a massacre. I mean, that's not exactly how they said it, but,
You forget something. He was a
doctor. He was not. There was nothing that. I mean, obviously, you know the story. I know the story. You could tell the story as well as I could. But he definitely was framed. He did not. There was no evidence. There's no hard evidence that the story that came out and was highly publicized. There's no evidence that actually happened. The evidence is the opposite. And this was set up so that Jews would, the general population would be afraid to go to Hebron. They'd be afraid to go there. They would turn their back on it, and so that so that they could maybe so they want to give it away now. Luckily, it hasn't worked. Their plan hasn't worked. It worked to.
Most of Hebron was returned to the Arabs. And the settlers there did not stand up, but they're still in their home.
What are you speaking about? Are you speaking about that one area where they came and ransacked
the houses? That one area was every area but the Jewish area. It was cleared out.
No, there was. That's what it looked like in the
Hebron,
news.
You're saying the same Hebron it was returned to the Palestinian Authority.
At Y Plantation, that was. When.
Let's not do this. It's too complicated.
Yeah, basically, the Jewish community is there and it's strong, and the army did come in and ransack a number of Jewish apartments. But they were never, and they're just left. They're empty. They're empty, and they're ransacked, and And that was like another media trick to get people to resist going. I mean, I have a friend in Jerusalem. Actually, she's from Winnipeg, like you and I are, and she lives in Jerusalem.
Where?
And she will not go to Hebron. And one time I convinced her, and she came with me. And then later, her whole family said, "Don't you ever go again? It's too dangerous." She was in Jerusalem, 17 miles away. She doesn't go. So
well, let's stay on topic. The point was Goldstein was set up, and then after Gush Katif, they removed most of Hebron. Thanks to the sloppy job, Goldstein was supposed to be it was supposed to be a better plot. The Jews are still in their homes. For how much longer, I wouldn't bet on it.
Sheikh will be here.
What, in Hebron?
You know what? Everywhere, but that's a good starting point.
Yeah, but the government has really tried, and that Hebron neighborhood is very strong. So
they were all strong.
Yeah,
fighting an army and psyops, and it's amazing how dumb Jews are. All right, just keep that in mind. They'll fall for anything.
Well, they have different areas of expertise and self-preservation. It doesn't seem to be a strong one, although we have persevered for a very long time. So it seems that despite ourselves,
we should have 500 million people. It's amazing we have any left.
In Hebron? Oh,
I mean in the world. You're saying that we managed to hold on. We've got, like, if we're lucky, 17 million. We should have 500 million. They were all wiped out. They became Christians or they became Muslims. It doesn't matter. The Jews have not self-preserved that well.
Right. But somehow we're still here. I want to go back to the question you asked me about evidence about the government, or that Arabs are used to for terrorist attacks.
3 questions ago, but what did you find?
Something. I think that I do not have any really hard evidence on that.
Then leave it be.
I would say that it's circumstantial evidence, and that it can't. The government will not allow it to actually be investigated. So you have circumstantial evidence that really puts it beyond a doubt. There's just so many leaders on the right who have been, different kinds of accidents, and there's different patterns. And so even though it can never be really investigated. Right. So, at a certain point,
record this.
There's a certain point when it happens once or twice, so you figure that it's maybe by chance. But as it gets to be a higher probability, you have to go with the probability. It's common sense to go with the probability instead of saying, well, I'm going to wait until somebody investigates it.
1 second now. 2 days before the pullout, the disengagement from Gush Katif, what happened at Shuafat?
In Shuafat, I remember there was something. What I put in the book was
massacre. Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
What I don't know if I put that in the book. What I put was the bus where you had the AWOL soldier who still had his rifle, and he killed Arabs on a bus. That was the one I put in my book.
That was the
but
guy.
That was for the noise. That was for the noise. And I quote an actual article in Haaretz, the actual article where the headline says it was a settler, and if you go down 17 paragraphs, it actually says that he didn't really live on a settlement, but he was friends with people in the settlement. But on the headline, they call him a settler.
Went to a place in a posh neighborhood in Jerusalem, spent months there, being turned around, given a gun, went to Hebron. He was a lousy shot, luckily for the Arabs. but he was used by the people who run Israel, and it's tragic. Tragic. All right, I made your point if you didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
You were absolutely right. I was trying to get that out previously with Hebron and how Gush Katif was all part of this It doesn't matter. The government of Israel hates the settlers, hates Hebron, and they'll kill Arabs to get Jews out.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I'm glad we agree.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult topic, especially when you're writing your book, by the way. Look, people, write me and I'll get you her book. Folks, Chamish B.A., that's Chamish Berry. All right, chamishba@gmail.com. I'll get you her book. We're going to, honest, Eliza, we're going to revive this book in a small way for you. Gotcha?
Okay, thank you very much, Barry.
Oh, the heck. How many allies do I have in this world? By the way,
okay. Yeah.
She goes back a long time. All right, Eliza's not from yesterday. I'm amazed that we thought so similarly. Okay, I'm being personal now. What was me, Ron? Oh, darn, we have a little break. You know, the first thing when we get back, you're going to meet David. We'll go back to where we were, I suppose, but say hello to a fan when we get back, all righty?
Okay.
All
so
right,
wait a minute. So I should wait, Barry. I should wait or not?
Yes, you should wait.
Oh, okay, I do that. I wasn't sure.
In 3 minutes. We have commercials.
Okay, good.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen, There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Evening, folks. A very important show, in my opinion. Look, get all my books at www.lulu.com. That's lulu.com. My book you should get is Bye Bye Gas. It's in color and black and white. I suggest black and white. Cheaper. That's lulu.com. My website is barrychamish.com. Now, David, meet Eliza. We'll see where this goes.
Hello, Eliza.
Hello, David.
I met you at a speech that Barry gave in Brooklyn many years ago. I don't know if it was 2007 or 8. And you gave him dinner after that at your house, and you were sharing it with some gentleman. Very simple house, railroad house in Brooklyn, off of Empire. So I did...
Near Ebbsfield.
I didn't know at the time I was buying your book, or I had bought your book. I don't even remember if I bought the book later and didn't know I was meeting the author of that book that night. I never put it together till recently.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Sorry, what was you said it was, you went to an event and then came to my house after?
I gave a speech.
Oh, right, and he came afterwards to the house. Okay, I remember. But I don't think my book was ready then.
Okay, so it was before your book. There was a gentleman
right.
There was Legion on the wall, possibly a relative, and some Talmudim on the shelves, and basically nothing else. Just a little bit of time. That's what I remember.
All right, you just got a criticism of your house.
No, it's not a criticism.
No, I didn't hear a criticism.
No.
Did you hear a criticism? There, you heard a criticism. I didn't.
Anyway, I put enough of the
of your home decor or something.
I will share
All right.
that. 2 copies at the time.
David, let me go back to Eliza. Her book is important. I don't want to stay on the line. We'll figure out something.
Fictionalizing the people in the book, because there's a good reason to do that. If you don't want.
Wait a second. There's a hum. Is there some way to get rid of the hum or not? Like it's difficult to hear, David. I'll try my best, but.
I'm on.
All right, Eliza, my turn. All right, you can hear me,
so,
right?
I think why don't we let David? He just wanted to orient me. Now I'm oriented. I'd like to hear what else.
When you use pseudonyms for people who are real people, who are recognizable in the book, it's fine to do, because you're not creating a case of Lashon Hara in that situation on you.
Lashon Hara is the bat. Listen, all right. Lashon Hara means bad tongue. It means slander.
Oh, so he's... Sorry, what's David's...
You're preventing slander, whatever.
So he's saying that he wants to know why I allowed myself to say slander?
No, that's not what he's saying.
I don't understand.
Look, David, let me go back to Eliza.
Okay.
She's glad you have a fan who liked her book, and it's a recommendation to my listeners to get the book, but now it's back to Eliza. I hope you're not insulted.
I didn't hear any insults. It was difficult to hear.
All right, but... Eliza, one of the characters in your book, all right?
Yeah.
Look, I knew him personally. He's Yossi. He's the head of the Chabad Yeshiva in Gush Katif. I know who he is. he snuck me into Neve de Kalim just before the disengagement. He gave me the rundown of the settler leaders. He gave me the rundown on Shlomo Aviner. I know exactly who he was. You want to expand and actually give his name? Go ahead.
No, I don't see any reason to give his name. I mean,
Well,
it was an amazing initiative that he did. He undertook. It was not easy to find. Believe it or not, it was not easy to find funding for it. Here was somebody who was actually doing something, and whereas the yeshivas that were in Gush Katif all walked, they all made deals, and they all walked. And here this little yeshiva with a dozen guys kept hundreds of soldiers busy for hours. Now, those bigger yeshivas could have done much, much more had they not just walked out on their own. So this really showed what could have been done. And here you have somebody who just picked up, a couple of guys and made a bomb shelter into a yeshiva, and couldn't get much support for it, but these boys went, and they really showed what could have been done to resist. But the people of Gush Katif didn't resist. And some people actually criticized, what are you doing here? Why are you making so much trouble? But, and that story really I told in the book. It really is very accurate. I mean, I interviewed all those boys, and I got the story. And that really is what happened.
The army, I would not have got into Gush Katif. He paved the way for me in the final days.
Wow.
All this is very painful for me. I got to tell you this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and also the story of, I call him Rabbi Slonim in the book.
Don't be shy.
He did that. Rabbi Slonim was his grandfather, is Rabbi Slonim, and he's a descendant from Rabbi Menucha Rachel and Hebron, who's a Slonim. So we don't. But his grandfather is actually Rabbi Slonim. But he got into Gush Katif exactly according to that story. There was no boy in the back seat. I put one of my characters in the back seat. That story wasn't real, about the broken arm, but the way he got in at the last minute, that he actually talked his way through. They never thought somebody would come that way, the southern route, the Philadelphia route, and so nobody from the disengagement was watching, and he got himself into Gush Katif that way. So
he snuck me in as well. I had my ways, and he was one of my ways.
Okay. He hadn't wanted me. At first, he didn't want to tell that story because he didn't want anyone to get into trouble. But now that it's 10 years, I don't think anyone's going to get into trouble because they helped him. The army, there were soldiers who helped him get in. So for a while, he had to keep quiet about that. And everybody really wondered how he showed up there that day.
Look, another one of your characters is the Rav. Now, this is, I know who you mean, but we're talking about who was, I think Adam was Harav Shlomo Aviner. No, Pinchas Wallerstein. Pinchas Wallerstein.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to use your quote and then you expand. Ahead of Yesha Council, he would stress the need for unity and obedience to one group of leaders, himself and his Judenrat. That's a very powerful and very accurate statement you just wrote.
Well, actually, in one of your emails, you just sent the link for the YouTube videos, the Megorashim, the spies.
Oh, yes.
I think it's Megorashim.
Yes, it's Megorashim.
Hebrew, because that's what the YouTube that does have the Hebrew word. It means spies. Meraglim, not Megorashim.
Meraglim is spies. Megorashim are the ones who were evicted.
Right. So it's Meraglim, and there's 4 videos that is still on YouTube. And there it shows pictures of him sitting with the police and talking. And it's a video that really, shows us what was going on there. And so that I write that in my book, taken straight from those videos. I may dramatize it and fictionalize it a little. I put in dialogue that's not, I take dramatic license, poetic license for
not all
that.
Much.
But the character is real. Is very, very real, and it's terrible. And some of these people, like Rav Aviner, is still, people cannot believe that he is a rabbi, and people respect him.
He was, by the way, I'm going to remind my listeners, he was a rabbi molester. He was well known. He was going to trial. He was going to prison, and he cut a deal. Betray your damned settlers, and you'll stay out of jail. And to this day, he's still doing his Rav stuff.
I just can't believe that people, respect it. Like, I don't get it.
Me neither.
I just don't get it. There's no rationale, and even people who have read my book still, will on Facebook post his weekly holy speech. It's like, what?
It's unbelievable. Ben Gvir is still a lawyer. He's still,
wow.
He destroyed the women in green single-handedly. Yeah. But he still practices law. Why are Jews so stupid?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, you and I, we're okay. So it's not everybody. It's not everybody.
Look, you write in your book, well, you use the word flashy, but we know it's Martin Schlaff. He's the one who got Sharon into the money laundering casino business.
Right.
Don't be shy. That's very, very... So the Jews understand that the man who surrounded the Egyptian Third Army and saved the country could be so treacherous.
Yeah,
he was born a leftist. Go into Martin Schlaff for just a sec.
Okay, so the thing is, really, from a fictional point of view, you need to have the ultimate source of evil has to be, not has to, but there is a style that when you're writing fiction, that the ultimate source of evil should be sort of offshore a little bit. So Martin Schlaff was the perfect villain for the novel, and it would happen to be true that he, was calling the shots. And Sharon is, I read Sharon's book and studied it with as closely as I could to try and find a few hints of what it is that, stimulates him, can't think of the word. Okay, that's like stimulates, but what makes him tick. And it seems to me, and I put it in the book actually, that he was kind of like a party animal, like wherever the fun was, that's where he would go. Wherever there was action, like he didn't have the integrity of somebody with his own values who would follow through. Wherever the action was at the moment, he'll turn in that direction, and like a wind-up toy, somebody can just turn him, and he'll just keep marching in that, and then you turn him this way, and he marches over there, and that's who they had at that time. And the clue is, at the real clue is he destroyed Yamit. And that was the clue. That's when...
Hold on. Yamit, for my poor listeners, Yamit was in the Sinai. There was a 3-pronged withdrawal from the Sinai. Yamit was last prong. That's when Kahana's group were the last to be evacuated. All right, on you go.
Okay, but I'm just saying that very often when something happens, people will say, "Oh, I should have known," because remember, and that really was. I realized that's the warning sign that the people who supported Sharon, tried to think, "Oh well, he made a mistake; he won't do it again." But it was there in his character to. If right now he's going to be if he's going to be a hero building settlements, he'll build them. If he's going to be a hero destroying settlements, then he'll destroy them. But he was looking to be a hero, and just wherever the good food was, that's where he was going. Yeah.
Oh, folks, the story behind the story stinks. It really does. And this book
but I make it exciting. I put love stories in there, and I put some good characters. And the character that everybody loves is I have a boy who's Down syndrome in the book.
Oh,
and
I was going to ask.
He reflects the emotions of really what's happening, because he doesn't have, or somebody with Down syndrome doesn't have superficialities. They're the real thing. So his day-by-day reaction and pain really, to me, that really reflects. He's the opposite, because you have the offshore villain, and the boy with Down syndrome is the inner core of goodness. That's
you
how
know
I
what?
see
I'm going to remind you, folks. The book is very much a woman's book. All right, I'm going to say that.
So all the men who like women will like the book.
Men like the book, but they're not as involved. Look, my email address is chamishba@gmail.com. We're archived for a week at libertyarchives.com if you missed that. All right, now here's where we're going to clash. You ready to clash?
Okay.
The conclusion of the book. The spirit of Gush Katif may be wounded, but it is not broken. I'm sorry, Elisa. I don't... It's the wrong conclusion. All right. It was broken.
How would it affect your radio show if I wouldn't clash and I would say you're right?
It would affect it just fine.
Because, I'm amazed I said that. But I wrote that. Because, I was, not so long ago I visited, friends in their caravan and their son. And they're still struggling. It's just terrible.
They're like the refugees in Turkey from Syria.
Well, I was there during the war last summer, and we had to. They didn't have the Iron Dome like the rest of the country, right? So they were too close to Gaza to have the Iron Dome, and they didn't have proper bomb shelters. They had what they called a sewer villa. An overground.
That's a baseball bat where you try and hit rockets.
There you go. Right. So, and if it's got a direct hit, it would just be blown to smithereens. And these are overground sewer pipes. Big sewer pipes just dropped at the end of the cul-de-sac for the dead end street.
I'm in touch with them. I know you're right. You're right.
And I sat there watching the kids shiver and jump every time they heard the bombs.
It's actually the dean's son who writes. All right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't intrude. I'm in touch with him, and what you saw is what they feel.
So, yeah, that's...
Look, I'm just going to add why this is important to me. I was in Tel Aviv the Saturday before. That would be August 13th. There were close to 250,000 people protesting the evacuation, the pullout, whatever you want to call it, from Gush Katif. And why weren't they? What were they doing in Tel Aviv? You
Yeah.
surround Gush Katif. The army could not have fought 200,000. Would have been very different. But the Yesha Council sent them to Tel Aviv.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
that's all.
Yeah.
That was my
yeah.
opinion.
And then they had this big prayer thing in Jerusalem with 250,000 people.
I was there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And just keep them away. Just keep them busy and keep them away from where the action is, where they're needed. Keep them away. Distract them. It's easier to go to Jerusalem or Tel Aviv than to go all the way down. It's on the 2-lane roads to Gush Katif. But oh boy,
I know. Whatever you're feeling right now. Oh, this is very rough on me. It really is.
Anyone who was there, it was such an amazing society there. It really, I think it was so beautiful. I mean, they had their faults. I could also criticize, there's certain criticisms I left out of the book. But in general, we all have our faults. And they had really created... They made the desert bloom. They made the desert bloom, and they were wonderful people, had wonderful communities. And it's just heartbreaking. I had some very good times there, met some wonderful people. And it's unbelievable that they could just be crushed and destroyed by the government that they loved. And, it's a very big tragedy. It's a very big tragedy. And if people do, I hope people do buy the book. And I put in the front cover my Facebook page, so I really...
Oh, give it. Give it.
The Facebook page is Banished Historical Novel.
That's a long title. Facebook. It's all one word, Banished Historical Novel?
No, Banished, colon. Because you don't need one word on Facebook. You just put Banished, colon, and then Historical Novel.
All right.
And then I like to get feedback and questions, and I'll try and respond. Because I really appreciate.
Will actually say hello to you. Banished, historical novel. Look.
Yeah, and it's on the front page of the book. So if you read the book, you'll see it right there with all the other disclaimers and numbers and things.
So. Well, I'm doing my level best. We have 3 weeks until the anniversary. You inspired me. I swear that's the truth. If you had not contacted me, I would not have woken up. It's the 10th anniversary, and I put in my punch first. Thanks to you.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, and thank you for your support because...
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Finish up. Okay, thanks a lot, Barry, and I'll just listen to you.
Here, and you can't hear him, which is very frustrating. Look, I spoke to him just because he's a fan of Banish. He thinks it's great. And he gave me this, I found out this totally irrelevant fact is being used by the far right, that 3 days after the evacuation pull-up, whatever you want to call it, from Gush Katif, America was hit with Hurricane Katrina. Somehow that helped the Gush Katif evacuees. I mean, that did some good, but I worry about the Jews and utter superstition when they should have been manning the barricades. Not a life was lost for Gush Katif. They walked into the cattle cars with their hands in the air, and their children were arrested, but not a parent was. That's what breaks my heart, that they couldn't see it.
Well, it's their loyalty to the state. Had those been the Jews in long coats and beards, they would have fought. This was because these are religious people who call themselves religious Zionists. And
there were plenty of secular in the north. They walked into the cattle cars with their hands up just like the religious in the South.
Right, but all these people have a religion of worshiping the state.
Obedience, blind obedience
They think the state is holy.
And they think
the state is holy. They think the army is holy. They don't. It's a twisted religion. Religious Zionism that's part of the problem with. That's why the audience you would think would read the book, who are supporters of Gush Katif, can't read it because it exposes that this is not a kosher religion. To say that the state is holy and the army is holy,
you should see.
It's wrong. It's a twisted religion.
You should see the reactions I'm getting to this article I wrote. They're thinking that I'm writing something anti-Israel. The victims were Jews.
Right, but it is anti the state, and because the state is the aggressor here. The state is the evil. And like I said at the beginning, I expose them. I'm not going hush hush. I'm not saying, I love the state.
You expose them brilliantly by Banish, but we ran out of time.
Okay,
David,
thank you so much, Barry. And thank you, everyone who's listening, everybody who's listening. Thank you, thank you.
You were in top-notch form tonight, Elise. I want you to know that.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
We'll
Good
be in
night,
touch.
all.
Okay.
I'll see you next
Goodbye.
Tuesday. This is the Carrie Church.
If you'd like to get a copy of this program, you may subscribe at FirstAmendmentRadio.com for only $45 a month, and you'll receive an MP3 CD weekly of all of our programs. As a bonus, we'll send you a password for our audio archives online. That's a $15 value. Or you may request any month of any program on one MP3 CD for a minimum donation of only $25, or any single program on tape, MP3 CD, or CD for only $15. You may do all of this online at FirstAmendmentRadio.com. Just follow the instructions to make a donation or subscribe. You may also adopt an hour of your favorite program. Please don't forget that most of the programs on FirstAmendmentRadio.com are listener-supported. Don't do internet? Then call 559-781-3773 and we'll be honored to help you. Thank you from all of us here at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings, and to his kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under our Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
American Family News, I'm Chris Woodward. 16 Republicans are now seeking the GOP presidential nomination. Ohio Governor John Kasich is the latest candidate to announce his intentions. The Associated Press points out that Kasich has helped deal with a massive budget shortfall while creating jobs as governor. Unions say problems have occurred on his watch, but Kasich says he is experienced and tested. Another Planned Parenthood official is seen on video talking about selling aborted baby parts and tissue for profit. AFN's Charlie Butts reports on the latest chapter in the investigative report.
The first undercover video by the Center for Medical Progress showed Planned Parenthood Medical Director Deborah Nucatola discussing the sale of aborted baby parts, which is illegal. The latest undercover video featured Dr. Mary Gatter, president of